that make us a nation that cannot be beaten or broken. And we think of our brothers and sisters in Ukraine who are on the front lines right now fighting fascism. Ukraine is the front line and Canada is the other front line, and we have to hold the line. And I know that people are frightened. It's okay. Do you, like me, reach for your phone before your eyes are even open and just think, what happened overnight? Well, I'm here to say, stop doom scrolling. That criminal is going to do what that criminal is going to do, but we are going to do what we are going to do. Right? So we are in a world of darkness right now. We cannot pussyfoot around it. I need each of you to be a candle in the darkness so that other people see that you're willing to stand up. And when you're willing to stand up, they won't be afraid to stand up. And that's what this is about. This isn't a, let's all pat ourselves on the back and feel great about being Canadian. We are in the fight of our lives. And it's a fight that I never thought I would see. But fascism is on the march. The rule of law is being erased. People are being snatched off the streets of the United States right now. Donald Trump is shaking down law firms and making them work for him for free. And they're bending and kissing the gangster's ring. So let me ask you a theoretical question. Would the people of Alberta ever, in a million years, bend down and kiss a gangster's ring? Would that be absolutely? That's why I'm here. And I want to tell you a bit about how I ended up in this journey that we're on. It's not about me. Because the resistance didn't start with leaders, it started with you. It started with you waking up and saying, I am not going to let my country be taken away from me. Yes. Right. And when you saw the Quisling traitor go down to Mar-a-Lago to head out and he said, she doesn't represent us.
No.
She doesn't. And you knew you had to do something. That's how the resistance began. And for me, it was the morning after the Trump election. I went to bed early the night of the Trump election. We were in Ottawa at our NDP bar, Brixton's. And we had American friends there that kept saying, don't worry, Wisconsin hasn't come in yet. And I knew then, I'm not waiting to see the final round. I know how it's going to go down. We saw the absolute failure of democracy when a convicted predator, felon, sexual weirdo took control of the White House. And I knew then that we were now in a time of monsters. I couldn't think of anything at that moment but the Antonio Gramsci line, which I've never studied philosophy, so I don't know why I knew Antonio Gramsci's line, but it was in my head. That a new world is struggling to be born. But we are in the time of monsters, and this is the time of the monsters. And once we know that, we can start taking steps. So what are the steps to be taken? So, the morning after the Trump election, I just lay in bed. And I decided I was going to give myself a break from social media. I didn't want to think about it. And at 8:30 in the morning, I got a phone call from my wife back in Northern Ontario, and she's an Albertan. And I didn't care of that woman. And she said to me, you have not posted anything yet, why not? This after accusing me of having married Facebook. And I said, I don't know what to say. She said, I don't care what you say. You speak up. because other people don't know what to say, and they need someone to start speaking. Isn't that how it started? I work for her, yes. And that first post, I was overwhelmed with responses. And I suddenly realized that I wasn't alone, and we weren't alone. And that's how the resistance began. It begins when we start moving out of our fear and reaching out, because we don't know what else to do, so we start reaching out. And then he said that we didn't have a right to have a country. Yeah. That we weren't even a real country. Shame. And then, have I mentioned I went to see the legislature this morning? I was hoping to meet Daniel Smith. I'm just glad she hasn't put the stars and bars and the Confederate rebel flag on the legislature yet, but I brought a ladder because I was going to take it down if she had. But Danielle is off again in these, like, they have these meetings that the public's not invited to. Like, what's that? With MAGA. Meeting with a guy who planned the tariff war that's out to destroy our jobs and our economy and our family, and she was hanging out with him. But she should have been here defending the people of Alberta who were being hammered by the tariffs. And we've never seen her do that. So I showed up to see Danielle. She wasn't there. But I'm not surprised, because you're here. And you're the front line of resistance. Right? And it has been now, what, a week? Just over a week. Since Donald Trump announced his brilliant plan to destroy the world's economy. Planned by one of the guys Daniel Smith was hanging out with, right? And he called it Liberation Day. What a desecration of a powerful word. You know, but this is what they do. This is the Canada is broken, disinformation rage machine of the Polia gang and the Maple MAGA of trying to read into our brains and make us think we don't belong with one another. And then to call it something that is the opposite. Liberation is a powerful word. It's a sacred word. You know, we're on the Passover. You know, liberation was when the children of Israel were freed from slavery. That was liberation, and it's being celebrated this weekend. Liberation is Juneteenth, when the black community were freed finally, and they celebrate because they know what liberation means. Yep. Yes. Exactly. And I had the great honor to be in France on Liberation Day, June 6th, D-Day. They know what liberation means. It's a powerful thing. And I never really understood what it meant till I stood there at Juno Beach and saw the graves. It's a powerful thing. Because you realize our young people in a country of 11 million people went over to free other people from fascist tyranny. Not for any self-benefit, but to free people they didn't know. And when we landed on Juno Beach, we didn't get to celebrate. There was a lot of hard fighting. And at Denis-sur-Mer, the graves are June 6th. Winnipeg, Regina, Montreal. They fought and they died and they're buried side by side. And I walked that graveyard, seeing town after town being put into the meat grinder to fight fascism. And then I started seeing young men from my own towns, Kirkland, Matheson, Timmins, lying there from the days that they died on the battlefield. And every 15 minutes, from Juno Beach, all the way through the Netherlands, Canadians died. And I thought of this because, you know, I was at the Brussels NATO meetings. I went there to be reassured. I was sure when I went to Brussels that the The MAGA Republicans who were there would get scolded by Germany. You can't pick on a NATO ally. Nope. I thought France would say something. I thought UK would say something. And they were all tiptoeing around the Republican mob that were there, who were just lording over everybody as they were selling the people of Ukraine out at the same time. Shame. And this guy gets up. Now, these things are very formal. I don't know why they let me go. But these things are very formal. And this guy, I don't know, he's some secretary general or something, I don't know what the frick. But he's trying to placate the Americans. And he says, in Canada, you have to carry your weight. Oh, yeah. So I stood up.
Thank you!
My wife's uncle, Patrick Johnson, Edmonton, Alberta, died crossing the Leopold Canal. He's buried 15 minutes down the road, and you're going to tell us we're going to carry our weight? Don't you ever tell Canada to carry its weight. And we will do it again. Because that's the fight that's before us. So Donald Trump calling it Liberation Day. No. No, he's already panicking. But we have to hold the line. I would like to think that this is all just a bad dream. I'd like to be a Democrat sometimes. No, I wouldn't. I was listening to this Democrat the other day on the radio. He's somebody important. He had a name and he'd done all this stuff. And he was talking about the midterms and the pendulum swing. It's like a pendulum swing. You have destroyed the rule of law in your country and you're seizing people off the streets and putting them in illegal detention centers and deporting them and making these grotesque selfies of people in overcrowded El Salvador prisons, and you think that it's just a pendulum swing? That is the disappearance of the rule of law. So no, I'm not a Democrat. I'm a Canadian. Because Canadians are on the front line of the fight against fascism. That's where we are right now. And I'm not saying that to boast. But the rest of the world is watching us. The rest of the world is watching because Donald Trump thought we were an easy mark. Guess what?
Elbows up!
Elbows up, yeah. Elbows up. But I was leading into this. I was frightened because for a long time we've been sleepwalking as a nation.
Yes.
We've been disconnected from each other. We've been allowing the voices of disinformation and rage and the Daniel Smiths and the Pierre Poilievres to pick apart our nation. We gave our flag what was stolen from us by conspiracy haters who hung their head on the upside down and paraded us through the streets. We're taking our flag and putting it back in the upside. But there's a difference about why we can raise the flag. Because we are a nation that has come to understand that we have done some very bad and terrible things. We have come on a journey of understanding that there can be no resistance without reconciliation. Right? That the crimes committed in the residential schools have to be atoned for. And we cannot change what happened before, but we can change where we're going. Right? Because the fundamental relationship from the beginning, which brings us back right here to St. Basil's, was the settler-indigenous relationship. And let's face it, our side didn't keep our part of the bargain at all.
No.
But where we're at now is the decision of where we're going to be. 150 years from now, that relationship will still be there. And no criminal, fascist, gangster, and his Mussolini friends are going to come in and decide what our relationship on our land, on our resources, is going to be decided. We will decide that future because we will decide that together. Because we know being proud isn't being jingoistic. Being proud is that we're willing to defend our democracy and our way of life. Because there's things that those incel losers hate. You know, woke. Like woke. We were sleepwalking and we woke up, so yeah, damn right, we're woke. We're ready now. We're wide awake, we're woke. And Antifa, I love that. You know, the first time I was called Antifa, I had to call my daughter and say, I've just been accused of being an Antifa. What's an Antifa? She said, anti-fascist. I said, wasn't that a good thing? But for the conspiracy haters, it's not. Because they are the promoters of fascism. So my Antifa, I come from a long line of Antifa. My uncles kicked Nazi ass all over Europe. So, you know, Daniel Smith's down there trying to cut a deal for oil, leaving Alberta's ag community high and dry, leaving your tech community high and dry, leaving small businesses getting hammered. You know, Donald Trump thinks he'll just take it. Like he says he's going to take the water, like he's going to take the critical minerals. And then he says there's nothing else he wants from us.
Right.
There's something he wants to take from us that's more valuable than all the gold, all the oil, all the diamonds in this country. It's our decency. Right? They cannot stand that on the largest ground border in the world, there's a country that lives by the rule of law. A country that lives by a now term that they hate more than anything. DEI. Diversity. That's what freaks those incel dudes out. I mean, they're so insecure that they had to take Jackie Robinson, the first professional black baseball player's page off the Pentagon site. Shame. They took Ira Hayes, one of the great indigenous war heroes of all time, who raised the flag, the American Old Glory of Iwo Jima. They took his face down. Shame. But then they offered him nothing when he came back to America anyways, did they? No. And so they want to desecrate him a second time. Yep. That's how frightened and insecure they are. But it's how dangerous they are. Because right now, I can tell you, I've talked to organizations working with youth who do cross North America events who've been told they have to change the language here in Canada to say nothing about inclusivity. Because it will affect possible American funding. I've talked to people from universities in Canada who, when they're holding talks, have taken the words climate out of it. In Canada, because they don't want to offend the fascists south of the border. Well, I want to offend the fascists south of the border. That is our nation, and we will defend it. We will defend it to the last. So I'm asking you to do a few things. You know, April 9th was the anniversary of the execution of Pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer, one of the few Germans who stood up. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer had said just before he died that it wasn't just enough for us to bandage the victims who were being crushed under the fascist wheel. We had to stick a spoke in the wheel of oppression and stop it. That's what our job today is. Because if we don't stop it now, we will be on the same front line that Ukraine is.
Yep.
We have to hold it so that our young people don't have to pay the sacrifice that our great uncles and grandfathers paid. It's up to us to keep the line of freedom, to hold the line. Because you know what's amazing about Donald Trump and his gang? They get spooked. Didn't they get spooked? You stood up to them?
Yep.
Pete Navarro? You know, again, I'm just going to say, you can hold it against me, but I do agree with Elon Musk on one thing. He called Pete Navarro a total moron. Right? So the fascist is now calling the moron a moron. I love when mega fights. But Pete Navarro came out and he said, hey, Canada, tone down the rhetoric. What? We haven't even started. Because they're all that hockey stuff. It's like, we haven't even got to the point where we pull the jersey over your head. We're just pretty good at that. And we haven't even sent out the women's team. And don't let our politicians tone it down. There's no cutting side deals.
No.
That's what movements do. We're in this together. So I need you to take on the fight so that we don't have to go to the next level. And that's something that we need to talk about. I can't promise you that this is going to go away. I can't promise you that people aren't going to get hurt. And I can't promise you that people aren't going to suffer. But I can promise you that we will be standing true, north, strong, and free at the end of the day, right? We will still be So, couple of things, my brothers and sisters from Alberta. We got to hold the boycott. The boycott is such a powerful tool. Now, I've been speaking a lot about the boycott and my Alberta wife. I'm not mentioning her name because she hates when I say her name in public, but her name's Britt. And Britt's also Alberta and she's Irish. And so I come home after one of my tours and she goes, you don't even know where the boycott comes from, do you? I said, yeah, I do. The boycott comes from Ireland. A man's name was Boycott. And he oppressed the poor. And he pushed them off the land. And he shook them down. And the poor people of his region decided that he was going to cease to exist. He got nothing. When he needed milk, there was no milk. When he needed his house fixed, there was no one to fix it. He was completely ostracized totally by a poor society that had no other tools than their ability to say no. And the people of that region won because of the boycott. So, Mr. Boycott, thank you for your name. Right? We remember Rosa Parks. Right? Rosa Parks wasn't the first of the black community who refused to get off the bus. There were many. But Rosa Parks was the moment when they realized that they could turn this into a boycott against the racist state. And the real story of what happened with Rosa Parks was the year-long struggle afterwards, that every single day the black community in Montgomery walked. They walked mile after mile to get to work, but they would not ride the buses. And they broke the racist state through the power of the non-violent boycott. So the boycott is a powerful tool. And the boycott started with you. This wasn't planned. I've been I'm just repeating what you tell me. Like the woman who called me from Alberta right after Trump's threat and said, there were 6 of us going down to Arizona. We planned this trip for 2 years, and we've lost our deposit, but they'll never get another dime from us. We took that. And said, all the women in our community now, we shop the extra time to make sure we don't buy anything American. Right? That's the power of the boycott. And I gotta say, how amazing it is when you go in the grocery store, and now you're seeing produce from Mexico and Peru, countries that we like. Because no one's gonna buy that damn shit. And why is the boycott a powerful tool? Because they can't do a damn thing about it. But when air traffic and visits to the United States in the month of March, the busiest month of the year for Canadians going south, drops 70%. That's an industry with over $50 million and thousands of jobs that's now on life support. And then when people start pulling people out of lines and fingerprinting them and arresting them, you can be rest assured the rest of the world is not going to go to America. That is the power of the boycott. Because the world is now, and I get messages all the time, people say, here in Denmark, here in France, here in Australia, here in New Zealand, we want to be like Canada. We are boycotting everything. We are doing elbows up in our countries. That's the movement of the boycott. And on November 2nd, the day of Donald Trump's great liquidation sale of all things American, 4 Republican senators voted against the illegal tariffs on Canada.
Only 4.
Only 4. But that was the beginning of the break. And where did those 4 come from? Kentucky. Oh, they just lost their #1 market for export in the world because none of us drink Kentucky whiskey anymore. Too bad, so sad. Bye-bye. So Kentucky is now freaking out. They were like, wait, Donald, we didn't think they were actually going to target us after we targeted them. Alaska, good old MAGA Alaska, that after they came out all tough MAGA, and then Premier David Eby, get the Democrat Premier, decided, you want your trucks to go to Alaska? We'll put them on boats, because if you're going to drive our highways, you're going to pay the tariffs. And then poor little Maine, which is a sister province, basically, of New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, and now they're isolated and their neighbors aren't coming over to buy anything. That's the power of the boycott. So keep the boycott strong. I know you, I don't even have to tell you, but I'm just repeating the importance so you can tell your neighbors. The boycott can't waver at all. We have to keep it strong. So that's the first thing I need you to do. The second thing is, do not let them us be divided from each other. Right? That's what Daniel Smith and Premier Moe have been doing. That's what Preston Manning is doing. Who, in a moment when a nation is under threat from a foreign fascist power, starts talking about breaking up the country? Them and their straw army. You know? So don't let us get divided from each other. Quebec is strong. The Maritimes are strong. The North is strong. The West is strong. We are strong together, and again, we are strong from respecting that we are on Indigenous lands, and we are going to do this with respect, because that's how we're going to get through this. So don't ever let us be divided, and speak up, speak loudly, and let the world know where Alberta stands when it comes to defending who we are as a nation. I need you to do that, and I know you're going to do that.